Frank Miniter of Forbes is with us on the program right now. Frank, how you doing, sir?
Hey, Cam. Good to be here as always.
It's good to talk with you as well. You got a couple of columns, actually, at Forbes that I want to talk with you about, including this one dealing with the lawsuit filed by some of the family members who lost loved ones there in Newtown, Connecticut. A judge last week ruled that the case can go forward. She didn't say anything about the merits of the case, and there will be other opportunities for this case to be dismissed, but the case can proceed at least for now. And so you say that this might lead to sort of a fishing expedition among the plaintiffs looking for all kinds of stuff within the corporate files, so to speak.
Oh, that's exactly right. This is now going into discovery. I mean, the attorneys on the defendant's side have stalled until June 20th when there's a hearing on throwing this case out again. But again, it'll be before the same judge, and she's already called for discovery. So it's very likely that this is going to go to discovery. That means the attorneys get to sit down and depose the firearms executives at Remington and at the gun store and the distributor, to ask them whatever they want to ask them. I remember interviewing some of the executives who were interviewed and deposed the last time these cases, before this was made, these frivolous lawsuits were made illegal by Congress. I remember I interviewed a bunch of those executives who got deposed, and they were asked everything. I mean, it was a complete fishing expedition, going through their files, but also asking them personal questions, asking what they own, how they market firearms, and everything you could possibly imagine to try to find wrongdoing or something they can bring out to the public in a certain way that insinuates some kind of wrongdoing. So yeah, I do think it's a fishing expedition.
You will see a lot of legal analysts say that they still think that the legal reasoning here is weak and that the case is likely to be dismissed. The judge says, well, the argument that the plaintiffs are using doesn't fall under the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act, which is why the case can proceed right now. But they are, in essence, arguing that the AR-15, whether it's this particular firearm or AR-15s in general, should not have been marketed and should not have been sold to anybody beyond the military and law enforcement, right? Should never have been available for civilians.
Right. They're saying that the people who made this, the Bushmaster, owned by Remington Arms, should have known these shouldn't be made available to the public. When of course, Colt first started selling the AR-15 to the public in 1963, which was just before the military first procured the AR-15, which then became the M60, the full automatic version. So these have been available to the public right from the beginning, and there are millions of people who now across America own this type of rifle. It's the most popular type of rifle selling today. So to argue that the companies who somehow know that this very legal product, that has been a legal product for more than a half century, should be illegal, it should be thrown out on its grounds, I would imagine. But I don't honestly know what this judge is thinking. By bringing this to this place with this case, is she trying to harm firearms manufacturers before the case can be thrown out? I mean, I just don't know.
I don't know either, Frank, and we'll probably never know, or maybe it'll be a long time before we learn the answer to that. But, it is interesting because Hillary Clinton has talked a lot on the campaign stump. She's in Connecticut right now, actually, and she's talking about what Connecticut did legislatively in response to the murders at Sandy Hook Elementary and calling it a role model for the rest of the nation. She's also talked again about how you should be able to sue gun manufacturers, not just in this case, but you should be able to hold them, sue them, seeking to hold them accountable for the third-party actions of criminals. And one of the things that I've been wondering here is just, how consistent Hillary Clinton would be. As well as I do, Frank, right now, violent crime is at, 40-year lows in this country, right? And close to all-time lows. Drug overdoses are at all-time highs. And that includes prescription-based opioid medications. So would Hillary Clinton, who's taken millions of dollars from pharmaceutical companies, would she endorse the idea that we should be able to sue these drug manufacturers seeking to hold them responsible for the third-party actions of drug dealers and those who are leading this rise in drug overdose deaths?
Yeah, well, she is for. I mean, she's on the record for repealing the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act. So she would make it okay. And it was the previous Clinton administration that started these lawsuits trying to hold firearms manufacturers accountable for the actions of criminals. So, yeah, I think she would love to go back to that time. What it really was, if you look at it, and this has been said a lot, was an effort to actually bankrupt firearms manufacturers, which it was doing a pretty good job at for a while. It was costing them a lot of money to play defense against these frivolous lawsuits. Yeah, I think Clinton would love to bring that back.
Even for the drug companies that she's taking millions of dollars from, or do you think that she'd find some sort of legal loophole there?
You know, that's a strange place for her. I think she's this is a journalist speaking. This is what I see, but I think she's a politician of convenience, and I think she will, when it suits her needs, do a different thing than she's doing now. I think she's telling people what they want to hear, right? And I think that's part of the reason people love Bernie Sanders is he actually seems to believe what he says, where she doesn't.
Yeah, although, it's interesting. I think that the 2016 Hillary is probably closer to what Hillary truly believes compared to, let's say, the 2008 Hillary, who was portraying Barack Obama as way anti-gun. And she was a supporter of the Second Amendment. And, she grew up learning how to shoot, and she talked about her grandpa taking her duck hunting. She said in 2008, Frank, that, look, what works in Manhattan might not work in Montana, and vice versa. So we don't need these big federal laws. I think what we're seeing from Hillary this year is actually much closer to how Hillary Clinton really, truly believes.
I wouldn't be surprised, but again, I think that makes her the chameleon I think she is. She'll change as she needs to, as she changed when she ran for senator in New York, for the Senate race here. I'm in New York. She changed a lot of her views to meet the certain populace, and I think she'd do it again.
I suspect that you are correct. Now, speaking of changes, we're going to get a new $20 bill here in over a decade, Frank, and you write about this at Forbes. The new $20 bill is making gun rights advocates and conservatives cheer, which is funny because I just saw this headline at Salon earlier today talking about how conservatives hate this. Now, I haven't seen any evidence of that, but why are gun rights advocates and conservatives cheering about Harriet Tubman being on the new $20 bill?
Well, she was not only a Republican, of course, that's this is the party of Lincoln, the party of anti-slavery. She was not only a Republican. She's a former slave who helped slaves on the Underground Railroad run out of Maryland and get out of the South during the time of slavery. Mm-hmm. But she was also a gun owner who carried a gun to keep herself safe as she was transporting people and getting people out. And then during the Revolutionary War, so the Civil War, she joined the Union forces and actually carried a rifle and did some pretty heroic things during that war. So she believed in standing up and holding her Second Amendment proud to fight for her freedom. So, that's why gun rights people like her and conservatives should like her.
Absolutely. You talk about how you can make a movie out of her life. I was talking about this yesterday with, I think it was Sonny Bunch of the Washington Free Beacon online, that I think it would actually be better. You could probably do like a 1 or 2 season Netflix or Amazon Prime series, because you could, she made, I think, 19 separate trips to the South as a conductor on the Underground Railroad. I'm guessing, Frank, you can probably find 19 compelling episodes of television just right there before you even get into her exploits during the Civil War and her own fight for freedom.
She also guided boats through a minefield to help Union forces get in. And then when they actually, this is in South Carolina, when they went in and freed slaves from plantations, the slaves came running back to these boats, and she witnessed the whole thing. She was a part of that whole thing. So she literally freed slaves. Just an absolute hero.
That's amazing. And as you point out in your column at Forbes, her pistol and her saber are actually on display at Florida A&M University, right?
Absolutely. And that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
I wish they were in the Smithsonian or the NRA Museum. But it's just fantastic that those are out there for people to see, because that part of freedom is just so pivotal. And I think especially today, as you see certain peoples that are disenfranchised here without their rights and their liberties, to look back to her and what she did is just so inspirational.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I appreciate you writing and giving folks a history lesson, considering that the #1 question apparently on Google yesterday was, who is Harriet Tubman? Harriet Tubman. I'm glad that you could provide an answer for folks.
Anytime, Cam.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Frank Miniter at Frank Miniter on Forbes. FrankMiniter.com is the website.